reading, back with the book that I finished reading, a very special book. I absolutely love the author, and this is my second book of her, and I really enjoyed her first book as well, and I would definitely recommend you to check out this author and her books. The book that I finished reading is The Book of Everlasting Things, beautiful hardcover. It's by Aanchal Malhotra. So for those of you who know Bharisans, the famous booksellers in Delhi, and I think they've recently opened in Kolkata as well. Aanchal Malhotra is their daughter, but she's an oral historian, and she's partitioned her kind of a forte and interest area. I have read her Remnants of Separation, which is a book about when during the partition, when people traveled to Lahore or they came to India, they carried certain materials, certain objects, and the book talks about the memories associated with those objects, hence the title, The Remnants of Separation. And I would definitely recommend that book to you guys. It's so emotional, so heartwarming, just a wonderful book. Now coming to this one, this book is, it starts in 1938 in Lahore. So the book is based in Lahore and eventually then in France. So the book starts with the introduction of the Vij family. Now the Vij family has lived in Lahore for many generations. They had their ancestral home there, and they have their clothing and textile business there, which they have been having since a while. And they have, so Somnath, who is the father of the family, he has two sons. And Vivek, who is the eldest son, he is someone who is craving for adventure, who wants to get out of Lahore. So he decides that, he's going to contribute to the British Indian Army. So there's World War I happening, and he decides to join the war as a soldier. Now, while his family tries to convince him that he shouldn't be doing that because maybe it's not really our war, but since he's looking out for adventure, he's looking out to move out, and he feels so strongly about the war, he goes to the war. But after he returns from the war, eventually after a few years, he is completely a changed man. He's someone who doesn't talk to anybody. He likes being alone. He is very quiet now. He avoids all social gatherings or loud, noisy spaces. And everyone just believes that, it's the post-war effects that he's suffering from. Now, eventually at that time, the Vij family clothing business is not really doing well. So he suggests his family that they should, switch from the clothing business to the perfumery business. Now, initially, everyone is very surprised that, why all of a sudden he's so vocal and passionate about perfumery. He has no idea about it. We've been into clothing business. But I think seeing that passion and that liveliness in him for a particular topic, the family agrees that, okay, let's just move to the perfumery business. Now, this was about Vivek. Now we move to the main character, Samir. Now Samir is Vivek's nephew, the Mohan's son, his brother's son. And when he turns 10 years, Vivek realizes that his nephew has a natural gift for smell. Like his nose can smell really, different fragrances, and he's just gifted with that whole gift of smell and perfumery. So when he is 10, Vivek tells his nephew that why don't he join him as his apprentice, as his trainer. And Samir, who is so excited about fragrances and smells, he joins the ittar, which is so the Vij family have their perfumery shop, which is called as the ittar, which is in the Anarkali market in Lahore. So Samir joins the shop, and every day we see him working with his uncle and his father in the shop. Now, I think it was 1938, one morning, when Samir is working in the ittar shop, and there is a Khan family that comes. Now, the Khan family is involved in the calligraphy business. So they are looking for a particular scent they're looking for a particular fragrance or an ittar to scent a paper. So they are on a mission, and they've come to look for this fragrance that they can use to scent the paper. And suddenly Samir locks eyes with this 9-year-old girl with pistachio eyes. and whose name is Firdaus Khan. Firdaus Khan is just 9 years old. She is a wonderful calligraphy artist, and just like Samir, who trains in perfumery with his uncle, Firdaus trains under his father in calligraphy skills. And that's the first day, in between the perfume bottle aisles, Samir and Firdaus, locks eyes with each other, and it is an attraction at the very first go, which ultimately leads to once in a lifetime kind of a love, which this book is all about. Eventually we see that Samir and Firdaus not only fall in love with this old art of perfumery and calligraphy, but they also fall in love with each other, dreaming of a life that they one day will spend with each other. But during this time also, eventually after a few years, we see the war of independence kind of rising, and soon Lahore, the beautiful city where they live happily, is devastated because of partition. And suddenly Firdaus and Samir finds themselves on the opposite side. Now Samir is a Hindu and Firdaus is a Muslim from Pakistan. So their love is short-lived, and they are taken away from each other. One of these days, they have not shifted from Lahore yet, but the partition war has started. So Samir loses his entire family. They die in a fire. And after now losing everything and nothing really to look forward to, Samir goes and visits Firdaus, asking her, for her love. But he is sent away by Firdaus, and she just denies her love to him. So this is what is the first part of the book, which ends on a very sad note, where because of the partition, the two lovers are drifted apart. The second part of the book is majorly in the perfume capital of the world, Grasse, which is in France, and Paris. So now Samir, obviously he has the burden of the partition. He goes to Delhi, he stays there for a while, but he doesn't really feel belong. In order to escape the pain of losing his family, losing Firdaus and the whole partition, he finally escapes to Paris and eventually to Grasse. While he's in Grasse, he again finds himself attracted to the world of perfumery, and that's when he again joins as the apprentice, as a trainer there, and he's again introduced to the world of perfumery. But when he comes to Grasse, he's also carrying some of the things that he was able to find in the fire in Lahore. One of those things was his uncle's old diary. So while he's in Grasse, while he's I would say in a self-exile pain, he's actually consumed by these journals of his uncle's, which kind of brings him through his true inheritance. He realizes where he belongs, where his uncle belonged, and where are their roots exactly. He is also drowned into the world of, or the horror of the World War, the stories that the uncle has written into the diary that he reads every day. While he is also consumed by the diary of his uncles, and he's finding his true inheritance, and he's trying to figure out who he is finally now, because he doesn't belong anywhere. We also see that he has never really forgotten about Firdaus. He still loves her, and no matter the amount of decades or years that have gone by, he has not really forgotten about Firdaus at all. And eventually, I think we see that this once in a lifetime love story between Samir and Firdaus, how it surpasses, or how it kind of spans through decades, I would say generations and continents. And eventually, I think what you read about is the grandchildren of partition, grandchildren of Samir and Firdaus, how towards the end they play a very pivotal role. So the book spans from 1938 to 2017. And like I was saying, the grandchildren of the partition, they play a very pivotal role in Samir and Firdaus' story. The ending is not usually what you would expect. It is something different, but I think it's it's such a, once in a lifetime love story with the background of partition that you would read about. It's amazing. The book, I think, like I said, it's about love, it's about tragedy, it's about family relationships, it's about partition, it's about, how certain events that happens in our life, certain national and international events can have a huge impact on our daily lives, can have a huge impact on our relationship. I also learned a lot many interesting things in this book. Like, you will read a lot on the world of perfumery, about ittar, about different fragrances and notes, like a lot. When I say a lot, it's quite detailed, which I really enjoyed. I also came across a very interesting fact in the book. Like, it talks about, I never knew that our Indian soldiers were the one who also went, although it wasn't our war, but they were fighting in the World War I and II, and this was called as the British Indian Army. Like, it wasn't our war, but we were still there. I didn't know about this fact. You also, like, it's not as painful or as detailed like in her earlier book, like Remnants of Separation, but you feel the pain of partition. You feel what the people went through, you feel about that. So the author talks about that, and yes, then you read about a lot many secondary characters that I would say in the book, just not Samir and Firdaus who catches your eye or who are interesting to read about, but many secondary characters that are so memorable and that really engages you as a reader. This is like, I think, a 500 pages book, and I was just so consumed with it, and I was just so hooked onto it. And that's the beauty of Aanchal Malhotra's writing. I have read her Remnants of Separation. She writes so beautifully. There are so many quotable quotes in the book. There are times she uses Hindi and Punjabi phrases. It's amazing. The way she describes Lahore in the city, it is so vivid. Like, you will feel like you are in the city. Personally, just to share with you guys, my ancestors are from Lahore, although they shifted before the partition. So I have this deep desire in my heart to visit Lahore one day. I hope I'm able to do that. But when I was reading this book, it all the more increased my interest in this city, how she has described Lahore in this book. So all in all, I think I will say that this is such a captivating and enriching book. It will just, I would say, captivate all your senses. It's a book that will remain with you till the very end. I think, even after you have finished the book, it is going to, the story of Samir and Firdaus is going to be with you for many, many years. That I will give you the guarantee. It's just so beautiful. Like, I still remember so many passages, so many parts from her Remnants of Separation, and this book is no different. I quickly wanted to share some of the beautiful proses that I came across in the book. There are so many, but I just underlined few. So this was very interesting actually. Before the partition, Somnath, who was the grandfather, Vivek's father, shares, that back in our days, how the neighborhoods were formed. They were formed by, what is the occupation of, the people living in the street. So he gives an example. Like, if there was a street which was occupied by the washermen, it was called Gali Dhobiyan. If it was a street occupied by the lords of the pigeons, it was called as Gali Kabutar Baz. And if it was a street that was occupied by people who made kebabs, it was called the Gali Kababiyan. So I think that was a very interesting fact that I came across. I think I was discussing that with my father, and he confirmed to that fact. Yes, it was true. This is about Samir and Firdaus. So during when they met, when they were 9 and 10 years old, but until the time they were separated, they wrote letters to each other. So it says that over the next 7 years, they wrote letters to each other. Before the partition, they never interacted, in the sense they used to attend the same calligraphy classes. No physical intimacy, nothing, just writing letters and looking at each other. Over the next 7 years, Samir Vij would write Firdaus Khan 388 letters, one for every week, whether they saw each other or not. On some days, these letters would be about love and separation, longing and intimacy, and on others, they'd simply run through the most mundane topics: the color of the sky and earth, the smell of flowers, The rustle of trees, the movement of clouds, the sound of his mother's voice, the sadness of his grandfather's story, the spiciness of chili pickle, the city as he rode through it on his bicycle, the daily, slow-moving life. They had run from pages long to sentences short. These letters would become Firdaus's most prized possessions and eventually be elevated to the status of heirlooms for all the years to come, when neither she nor Samir remained. So these letters play a very pivotal role in the book, which ultimately you come to know about when you reach towards the end of the book. Now this is during the time when the partition happened and they were drifted apart. That day, two hearts broke, like the fragments of a newly divided land. Yet some vital part of him would remain with the woman he loved, without her even knowing that she was in possession of it. Then maybe one day, a long time from now, this part of him would gently unfurl over her skin like ittar, drift into her memory and settle there where it belonged. Beautiful, beautiful, proses. Lastly, I think I would like to read something which talks about the pain of partition. I remember asking partition stories to my grandfather and my Nanaji and Dadaji, and they shared the same sentiments, and my father shares, talks the same, that how it was unfair. Nobody had any idea why it was happening, or, it was just really sad. So here the grandchildren, later on, after many years, Samir and Firdaus's grandchildren, they asked Samir that, what does partition feel like to you? So he says that, can you imagine a heart, a single beating heart? Well, divide the heart into two pieces. That is how it happened. With a single incision, Hindustan became India and Pakistan. He further adds, the question then may not be how did the partition happen, but why did the partition happen? And how could he have done this? And how could we have done this to one another? What do you remember from that time? I remember that no single person could have understood all that was happening, all that would happen. There were so many versions of the same event. Religion quickly became the root of all the misfortune. So, in the book it shares, earlier people used to be known by the land, and suddenly we were known by our religion, which was not really a very good thing. So yeah, that is all on this wonderful, wonderful book. Please do give it a try. If you have read it, do let me know in the comments what you think about the book. I'm going to see you guys next week with another title. Till then, take care. Bye-bye. Please do subscribe to my channel.